Let's get a little more analysis on this. We're joined by Paul Rogers, who is a professor of peace studies at the University of Bradford. Many thanks for joining us on the programme, Paul. Let me start with this declaration by the Iraqi government that that the Kurds are using PKK in Kirkuk. Do you think that is likely?
It is possible. There have also been reports, admittedly from Kurdish sources, that there are very large numbers of volunteers within Kirkuk who are sort of joining the cause. The wider issue here, though, is that you do have a pretty basic disagreement between the Iraqi government, the federal government, and the Kurdish government. Essentially, much of it is about the status of Kirkuk, in part, as your correspondent said, in relation to the variable population, large number of Arabs and Turkmens, but also, of course, Kirkuk is so important, being at the key end of the Kirkuk-Mosul oil axis. And I think to some extent what we're seeing now is quite a lot of posturing with the risk of further outbreaks of violence as each side tries to prepare itself for possible negotiations. One suspects that neither the government in Baghdad nor the Kurdish authorities in Erbil actually want this to spill out into a major war, but each has a lot to gain from successful conclusions, which is why, in a way, this may be just the start of a difficult negotiating period.
As you say, the situation in Kirkuk has been an issue for a long time. How do you see things playing out this time round, though?
Very difficult to say. Obviously, the government in Baghdad was very unhappy about the referendum on the 25th of September, because that included the three more or less autonomous provinces and areas, including Kirkuk, which the Kurdish fighters had taken. And essentially that, as far as the Iraqi government was concerned, was really very much a step too far. But from Kurdish aspirations, it's absolutely important that they see themselves secure, which is, in a sense, what they're trying to gain at the present time. In the long term, I think one has to appreciate there are other factors involved. There is the Shia militia presence on the Iraqi government side, because one has to recall that the Iraqi army itself is frankly pretty weak. Its key forces, the so-called counter-terror service or Golden Division, the special forces, about 10,000 strong, were really quite badly crippled in the intense fighting with ISIS-Daesh in western Mosul. The end result of that is, in fact, the Iraqi army is not that strong now. And I think in some ways the Kurdish authorities know this, which is why they're pushing their point perhaps more than they would do. The danger of this, though, of course, is when you do have a high state of tension, you're in a period where, or to use the acronym AIM, accidents, incidents, mavericks, these are the three untoward things which could push you into a much greater conflict.
Indeed. I don't know if you would call Turkey the wild card, especially if the PKK are fighting with the Kurds in Iraq. How do you expect them to react to these developments?
Well, I think the issue is we do not know that the PKK is active there. There have been indications of that, but no more than that. That would be a worrying sign, particularly the view from Ankara would be, real concern over that. But I think we have to sort of suspend judgment a little bit on that. As far as we know, it is mostly the Peshmerga element and, as I say, volunteers from Kirkuk itself. The PKK would bring another factor in, but I'm cautious at the moment as to whether one should say that is actually happening.
OK, Paul, I appreciate your time. Paul Roger there from the University of Bradford.